always reminded myself, like, girl, stay hungry, but never thirsty.
This is Richer Lives, the show that teaches you how to use money to live your best life. I'm Vivian Tu, aka your Rich BFF. Today, I'm sitting down with none other than the amazingly talented Adrienne Bailon-Houghton. So good to see you.
Good to see you. I'm like, yes, come through with the intro.
I mean, listen, me and all the girlies, we grew up listening to your music. You are an idol.
That sounds crazy, but I'm into it. Yes, I'll go with it.
Everybody knows who you are. But just as a quick refresh, you are an Emmy Award-winning host of The Real.
Yay.
A former member of 3LW and the Cheetah Girls.
Yes.
We're Cheetah sisters.
Rawr.
Love
Proud
that.
power.
A Grammy-nominated, multi-platinum selling recording artist, actress, reality star, entrepreneur, all that and a full-time mom.
Listen, the key is I didn't do it all at the same time, okay? It was over a span of 20-something years. Now I get to do the things that I want to do, and I am loving being a mom. I love being an entrepreneur, and the fact that that really has allowed me to be a present mom because I create my own hours.
Did you have any role models growing up on how to save, spend, invest, or manage your money?
The answer to that is hell no. Because the people around me honestly didn't, not only were they not knowledgeable about that, but they didn't have even the money to do that with. Like we grew up super humble. I grew up in the projects on the Lower East Side.
Yeah.
We were struggling. I think that even the idea of money came across as scary. Don't give me money. I actually don't know what I'm supposed to do with that, so I don't even want it.
Yeah.
My relationship with money was definitely all fear-based growing up. Yeah.
You know, most money habits are actually set in stone by the time you're 7.
What?
You got to get them early.
That stuff stays with you, but it's also generational. The same way we talk about generational wealth, there is the opposite of that. And it's like generational financial trauma.
Yeah.
I'm working through that still.
Yeah.
For sure.
Were there any money lessons that you had to unlearn as you went into adulthood?
Ooh, so the things I had to unlearn was the fear of spending money, which for me was ultimately investing in myself and investing in my career.
Yeah.
But that scared the crap out of my mom, which to some extent scared me because even something as simple as you need these new photos, this photographer is going to cost this much, the studio is going to cost this much, we'd like to have wardrobe, hair, and makeup on set. You're paying for all of this. And my mom was like, Mamita, are you sure about this? And I remember talking to the publicist and she was just like, listen, scared money doesn't make money. And I think that that is true to some extent. And
YG also said that in a rap.
Really? Okay, many years later, he needs to credit my publicist because she's been saying that. Yeah.
It sounds like they wanted to be really, really mindful when spending money, even on things like the photo shoot.
Yeah.
Did you ever get to spend the money you make just like as a kid?
Vivian, I spent all of it. I'm not exaggerating. I spent all of it. And I think a lot of that started happening on things that I cannot tell you where they are today. Clothes, handbags, shoes. A lot of people would consider fashion an investment, and I think there is a way to do that. But if you don't know what you're doing, me at 18, 19, buying so much clothing. I bought Louis Vuitton trunks. I don't even know where those are. In the move, I had a storage space. I'm pretty sure that someone right now has my Louis Vuitton trunks. I spent so much money on the idea of keeping up. My first manager taught us this idea of what it was to be famous and how to carry yourself. And it was very old school Motown vibes of like, you should be seen glammed. When you step off the tour bus, you should look well put together. There might be some fans there. And I actually really loved that.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to live up to that, but that came at a cost.
Definitely.
Baby, I was... I saw J-Lo in Juicy Couture. I had it in every single color.
You must.
Those were expensive, like
unreasonably so.
Right? And so that's where I spent my money. I will say I've made some other really amazing real estate choices, which is my favorite shopping to do because I can't lose that.
Yeah.
That can't get lost in my closet.
What do you get when you start an account with other banks? A coffee mug? Maybe a pen? A lollipop? A notepad? You don't need any more useless junk. You need more money in your bank account. I'm gonna show you step-by-step how signing up with SoFi can help make that happen. First, go to SoFi.com/richerlives and click the Open an Account button and fill out the information like your name and your address, the basics. Next, you're gonna set up direct deposit. Just grab the form from your employer, shoot an email to your payroll department, and they'll point you in the right direction. Choose how much of each paycheck you want to deposit into your SoFi checking and savings account. You can choose as much or as little as you want. And boom, now you're earning SoFi's highly competitive APY on savings balances with direct deposit. Plus, you can get a bonus of up to $300. My hot tip, keep that bonus in a SoFi Vault, aka savings account, so you can grow your money even more.
I want to talk about how I first met you. I have been obsessed with 3LW since I was a little girl, dancing to the music in front of the family TV before school. And I have so many questions.
Okay.
My first real one is like, how did you negotiate that deal? How do you just become a part of 3LW?
I grew up singing and loving music in church.
Yeah.
If you asked me to sing at a funeral, a wedding, like if there was an Easter play, I'm coming down, I will carry a cross, okay? Like if you gave me an opportunity to sing, I was there. But the reality is that when I got to junior high school, there was an arts school that prepares you to put together your portfolio so that you can go to schools like Juilliard or LaGuardia. We're talking photos. We're talking possibly a demo of me singing. It was a whole thing. A lot of people work with acting coaches to even get that far. I didn't have any of those things. I didn't have access to any of those things. My parents had just gotten divorced, and I knew my mom was really struggling financially. And there was a part of me that didn't even want to ask for those things because it just felt wildly selfish in a really rough time. And so I ended up opting out to audition because I couldn't pay for the portfolio. So the best and the safest bet to me was I am just gonna go to the school that my sister's in because pursuing music just was not realistic. I didn't know anyone famous. I didn't know how people become. It was so far-fetched that I just was like, let that dream go. You'll be a local celebrity. Just keep singing in church. You'll be called for a few funerals and we'll keep it pushing. And that was gonna be good enough for me. So I ended up getting into that school. And during your sophomore year, you're required to do an internship at Beth Israel that was right across the street. So I was there filing some paperwork and a guy walked in. I'll never forget his name and I've never seen him since. His name is Reggie. And he walked in, he was like, yo, Ma, you sing? I was filing something. I turned around and I remembered the quote. I think I got it from Oprah, who said, there's no such thing as luck. There's only opportunity meets
preparation.
That's it right there. And I was prepared. I was like, what do you want to hear? I will sing right now. I remember in that moment just being like, this is my opportunity and I've got to take it. And he was like, slow down. I know a manager that's putting a girl group together. Exactly. He's like, I know a lot of you girls intern from the high school. Can you get me girls from the high school to come and audition? And I was like, got you. For the next week, I was walking around asking girls in my gym class, do you want to come to this audition? I ended up finding 2 other girls and we all ended up going to that audition. And that was for the managers that put the group together, 3LW. And I remember them asking me, do you sing in Spanish? And so in that moment, I broke out and I sang Marc Anthony's Preciosa. And they were like, you're it. So I got chosen for the group. I remember the manager calling my dad and me standing in the bedroom and being like, what's she saying? Like, you're like literally trying to
Speakerphone didn't exist?
It did not exist. This was a phone with a little curly. And I just remember my dad being on the phone like, okay, so New Jersey. And I was like, New Jersey. And he was like, there will be a purple Mercedes parked. I was like, a purple Mercedes. Like, I was losing my mind that I was going to get this incredible opportunity to join this girl group. By the end of that summer, we were signed to Sony Epic and came out with our album the following year with the first single being No More.
That's crazy. Your preparation was perfect. How did you guys negotiate deals at that time? Like, how did that work?
I didn't. I honestly didn't. I think in my head, back to me being a 15-year-old and having an opportunity like this, I remember kind of telling my mom not to get in the way. And I know that sounds crazy, but this was my dream and my one shot and my opportunity. And I think when you come from humble beginnings or even like the area that I come from, you don't get that shot. We didn't have social media. There was no platform for me to go on and get discovered. American Idol didn't exist. YouTube didn't even exist. Like, so I didn't have, this was my one shot.
Models were being found in the mall.
Literally. So I just remember trying to be a 15-year-old, negotiating more so with my mother than with Sony or any money, but just to explain, like, don't come in there asking too many questions because I don't want you to ruin this for me, which looking back is a crazy thing to ask because I know I would never be that with my son.
Right.
Ever.
Okay. I'm going to be really bold here.
Yeah.
How much did you make when you joined 3LW?
So I almost want to say that each girl got $100,000 or it could have been $100,000 all the time. I don't know why that number is ringing in my head. Had they told me you're getting $1,000, I would have been like, amazing.
Yeah.
So with that being said, That's a lot of money today.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at record labels back in the early 2000s, it was the explosion of music
They
and
had
NSYNC and girl.
money.
They had money to give. Now looking back at our first music video, No More, I remember the budget being like $3 million for our first video. We literally were coming out the floor like getting blown up. We thought we were killing it with the special effects. I look at it back now and I'm like, we're doing music videos on our iPhones now.
Yeah.
Like no one is giving you a $3 million music video budget today. Mm-mm. And they certainly aren't giving you a $100,000 advance. You'd be super lucky for that sort of deal today, but it was such a different time then. And so many things have changed.
Fast forward a couple years, you end up in another girl group, one of my favorites, the Cheetah Girls.
Yay.
How'd you land that role?
So tragic story. I was so green. I had never seen a script in my entire life. I didn't know how it worked. So I go in and I do the super emotional scene. Cheetah girl, because of who you are in your heart. Closes the door and exits and pulls back. Like I read stage direction.
Like the parentheses.
Yes. And I will never forget the incredible executive producer, Deborah Martin Chase. She's amazing. And she goes, hold on a second. And she like told everyone in the room, like walked out with me and was like, I'm going to let you go again. This is what you read. This is what you don't read. Take a second and let us know when you're ready to go again. Had it not been for that, I would have never been Chuchi. Chanel would have not been this. Like, it would have been somebody else. And so I ended up getting the part. She was like, from the moment you walked in the room, I knew you were our Chuchi. And it was life-changing for me, even though I had no idea that it would be.
And looking back, knowing what you know now, do you feel like you were fairly compensated or would you have negotiated harder?
If I'm being honest, that to me at that time was still a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like if someone heard the numbers now, they might be like, girl, they paid you. But I was so grateful for the opportunity because it opened so many more opportunities for me. There isn't a price tag on that.
Yeah.
You know, it gave me exposure. It gave me a following. It gave me 2 more movies and 2 more huge, actually it was 3 tours, a clothing line at Sears.
Household recognition.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you can put a number on that.
Definitely. There are some opportunities you take to learn and some you take to earn.
That, I'm stealing that. That is what I've been trying to tell people all along.
Yeah.
I never felt like I was missing out only because I really recognized the value of the opportunity more than the actual dollar sign. But people for sure will be like, oh, you've made $50 million. I'll be like, not quite.
One of the most memorable places you showed up was Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I gotta ask, like, how much do you get paid to be on Keeping Up with the Kardashians?
So this was, oh my gosh, I was on the first season, or was it the second? Rob and I were dating when they shot the intros for the first season. I want to say it might be like $2,000 or something. Like
it wasn't crazy money for being on every episode.
But now their checks were different. I was a day player. Like I literally would pop in and do a few scenes for SAG-AFTRA. You get like a check for just an appearance.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, I don't even want that. Like I'm here with the family. Kris was like, girl, just take the money. It's not coming from us. It's a check from
I love
the
that
production.
She wanted to make sure that you were getting money in your pocket.
She always did, and I appreciated that. I actually learned so much from Kris in the years that like I was in there. She always was looking out. Like she'd be like, oh, you should be doing this instead of doing this. And I loved that.
She is the momager
brilliant.
For a reason.
She is absolutely brilliant, yeah.
So going from a platinum-selling recording artist to a talk show host, they don't teach that career trajectory in school. How did that happen?
I love talk shows.
Yeah.
And like when I was 9 years old, 10 years old, I literally used to film myself being Sally Jesse Raphael, Ricky Lake vibes. Like literally I have footage of me being a talk show host with proper cards and a theme song off of my Casio. So it was a dream, but then I ended up falling into this other thing. And I'm so grateful that I, again, had a parent, a mom that was like, girl, this is an amazing opportunity. This has been one of your dreams. And I had a producer once tell me, they're like, it actually does take talent to talk.
I'm making her say this, by the way.
Yes, it takes real talent to sit in front of a camera and to have an honest and open conversation and it not be wildly awkward. We have seen people be so cringe.
Yeah, it's
There's
weird.
the sixth sense to watching something and you're like, what is happening there? So I had this amazing producer that was like, don't ever let somebody make you feel like this isn't a talent. There's different talent that works in different ways. Some of those people that are great on camera for a scene can't just have a conversation that feels normal with the red light on, you know? They call it red light syndrome, actually. It's like the red light comes on and you're like, what do I do with my hands?
And how did, the financial piece change when you went from teen star in the music industry, in the acting world, to being kind of like the standalone host talent?
Yeah.
And also an adult?
Such a difference. I remember going to the audition for The Real, and they actually, for some shows like this, they have contracts that you signed at the audition. I had just finished Cheetah Girls.
Mm-hmm.
I had gotten a record deal at Def Jam that ended up falling through. And I kind of was in this awkward limbo spot of like, well, what do I do next? And I wasn't in high demand anymore. The Cheetah Girls was over.
Yeah.
My record deal kind of was like all of these things that happened. And here I was now having this opportunity. And I remember my manager at the time, they pretty much told me, sign that contract at the audition. You're lucky to even be getting this opportunity. And I did.
I don't want to hear that from a manager ever. You're supposed to be my biggest fan.
And I did not feel that way at all.
I'm so sorry.
So I signed the deal at the audition and I got what I got. And it was for 8 years. When you ask, would I go back and renegotiate? I would absolutely renegotiate that deal. So when I realized I had signed a bad deal, I was like, now what am I going to do with that? What am I going to do that's going to make up for the whack-ass deal that I have? What do I do now?
Yeah.
Social media is now picking up. I'm on television 5 days a week. What can I do? What is the branding that I can create? I started a jewelry company. From there, I started a handbag line. From there, I started clothing. And that's kind of where my mind started going. I was like, get entrepreneurial on this and make up for what I didn't get there. I was going to use that platform to make me money in a different way.
What was your mantra when you were deciding like what work to take and what not to do?
I think even when I may have been in a financially rough place, I always reminded myself, like, girl, stay hungry, but never thirsty.
I love that.
You can be hungry and want opportunity and you're working towards things and you're like, yes, but I've just never been like a thirsty person in that way. Like I'm not thirsty for checks. I'm not thirsty for opportunities that maybe should not be for me. And so I always think that just kind of believing that opportunities were going to come to me and that I did not have a reason to be thirsty has worked out well for me.
You heard it here. Adrienne wants the right job, not the right now job.
Preach!
Let's talk averages. What do you think the average kitchen remodel costs? $27,000. What about the average cost for a round of IVF? $15,000 to $30,000. And how much credit card debt does the average American have? $6,000. You're probably asking yourself, what do all these things have in common? You can use a SoFi personal loan to finance any of them. SoFi offers low, fixed-rate personal loans to help you reach your ambitions on your time. Whether that's reaching a milestone or consolidating debt, SoFi is here to help. Head to SoFi.com/richerlives to see all the ways you can use a personal loan and to view your rate.
Quick pivot. I want to talk about me for a second.
Let's do it.
I'm going through the egg freezing journey.
Yes.
And you have been very, very public about how it costs over $1 million on your family planning journey.
Yeah.
Can we talk about your process into motherhood and the considerations?
It's so crazy. I started the process when I was 34. From the very first time I went in, we started doing numbers and they went in and looked at follicles and they were like, this is not going to be as easy as we thought. That is where my whole journey began. And that was at 34 and easily 34, 35, 36, 37, 38. I know it was 6 years for sure that I was doing fertility treatments.
6 years?
Steadily for 6 years, 8 rounds of IVF, 4 rounds of IUI, and so many other treatments in between that were wild. We're talking acupuncture with the best of the best.
You got to get the right nutrition, the right workout regimen. You got to do all of it to
And no
try your
one
best.
tells you how much these things cost.
No. Everything from the egg retrieval to the IVF process to getting the surrogate. What does it all roughly cost on average?
Okay, so if you're talking just walking in and wanting IVF, that cycle, most people end up doing more than one cycle.
Yeah.
That is about $30K.
Yeah.
Sometimes medication can run like 14 to 15 grand additional. And then obviously for me, I ended up going the surrogate route. And I think right now the average surrogate, what that costs is around $190,000 to $230,000.
Yeah.
And some cost even more than that because now you're talking about you're going into contract with somebody. You now need a lawyer. So you're now paying legal fees for your lawyer. You want a great lawyer because that's the most difficult part of it is actually this contract that says you are the intended parent. They also need a lawyer, the surrogate, and then you need to cover their legal fees. There's also something called agency fees. So there are agencies that help to pair intended parents with surrogates, and they now need to match them up. That is a fee that I think a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah.
That is quite expensive. If you want to do things like prenatal care and massages and things like that, I mean, you are caring for this person and they are carrying your child.
Yeah. It all adds up very quickly.
No one told me!
No. I recently just looked at the number and I'm like, I am so lucky to have the job I have, and I balked.
Yeah.
And it made me really upset because I was like, how does anybody afford this?
It's not realistic. It is so unrealistic for the average person to be able to afford one round of IVF, let alone 8, and then surrogacy. When I saw all of these numbers and I started having people reach out to me once I announced that my son was born via surrogacy, there was so many people who were like, I would love to do this, but this is not realistic for me. That broke my heart because I just was like, that's not fair. Like, everybody deserves an opportunity to have a chance at motherhood if that's something they really, really want. And that's when I started my foundation, Faith and Familia. We raise money to help people, whether it's getting pro bono work from doctors that are like, I just want to be able to help you navigate this journey and say, this is what's going on in your uterus, or this is what you should look into, or why don't you try this? From that to even being able to cover full IVF treatments for people or whatever it is that they're needing.
That is life-changing. And we talk so much about money on this show, but it's such an emotional thing. And even if you are someone who's very logical and thoughtful with your money, you can kind of go crazy when you're like, I must start my family. It's expensive. Adoption's expensive. Surrogacy's expensive. IVF is expensive. Embryo, egg freezing, all of it's so expensive.
I'd like to think that I'm wildly frugal in real life. And I am, if you talk to any of my friends.
You bragged about the fact that her outfit is from Amazon.
Amazon, everybody. Thank you very much. Yet someone told me you were going to pay well over for this. And I was like, how do we make it happen?
Yeah.
Because I had this dream and this desire in my heart to be a mother, and there was no price tag on that. Like, I would have done anything.
Yeah.
But that's just not realistic for so many people to even think about. And that's got to change.
And was it so scary to take a step back when ultimately things did eventually start working out for you? You know, like, you've been a career woman your entire life.
Yeah.
And now suddenly you're like, okay, I got 9 months and then my entire world is about to change.
Oh my gosh, there was so much. I knew that Ever was on his way. And then they announced that The Real was going to be canceled. I know a lot of people were like, oh my God, you must have been devastated. I saw that as like,
a sign.
God's timing is perfect timing. And I had been wanting this for such a long time. And here I was actually going to become the present stay-at-home mom that I had wanted to be. And so I was so freaking grateful for that. But I mean, honestly, it was scary. It was scary on so many levels. Me feeling like, oh my God, if I go away from television and film, will I never be seen again? Will I never make money again? Will I never have the opportunity again? And I had to believe that the work that I've done for over 20 years in this business would count for something, and that God was going to bless me for putting my family first. And it has worked out amazingly, not even on a financial level, but just for me and my family and my home. But it has worked out financially as well.
Ooh, are you hinting that you're going to be making a return to the spotlight sometime soon? I have left her speechless.
By next year, God willing, So I've never stopped working,
of course,
but I've gotten to do things that I'm passionate about. I've gotten to do things like coming and sitting with you. I joke that my daily schedule is based on my son's naps. He naps for 2.5 hours. I will knock out work during that time and be able to get back to being with him. It is not easy, and I think women are exceptional human beings that get to do that. But ultimately, nothing makes me happier.
Of the lessons that you have shared, which ones are you passing down to Ever James?
I mean, there's so much. Credit for me was a huge thing. So just being able to learn how to build credit, that for me was life-changing. I literally was clueless because I had a mom that had told me that when those credit cards started showing up at my house at 18 years old, she was like, ha, with the scissor, you will not get my daughter to be in debt. And yet I actually needed to build so many lines of credit to be able to show that I was trustworthy and that I would pay on time. I had no concept of any of that. So that for me is the number one thing. The fact that my son will have a savings account, our parents didn't set us up that way. So generational wealth for me is super important. The fact that I'm able to pass down knowledge to him is worth so much more than any gift I could give him.
Yeah. That's the generational wealth they're talking about.
The generational wealth we're talking about is the knowledge.
Literally.
It's not necessarily like I'm passing you down a house or a car or a...
That too, though.
Or a Rolex.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, having a savings account for him at such a young age and allowing that to accumulate so that when he gets to a certain age, I low-key was thinking of not telling him it existed. Because I want him still to have great work ethic. And to understand that mommy's money is mommy's money. And I worked really, really hard for this from a really young age, and that you have to create your own path and you have to create your own wealth to some extent. I think the greatest thing I could give him is knowledge. And the more I learn, the more he gets to learn. And I feel like there's so much that I'll end up learning with him as he gets older, and I'm really looking forward to that.
On the topic of knowledge, is there a single quote or takeaway that you want to stick in his head for the rest of his life? The mom always said.
Oof. Mom always said, don't spend money trying to keep up with people that don't even care. I think we create this idea in our head that someone cares about what you have, how much do you have. Like, you're competitive with people that don't even care. They don't even care. How many things have we purchased that we thought were impressive to people that just did not care? Like, I'm going to order the caviar. Meanwhile, like, you're like, I hate that. Like, I mean, I do love caviar. But there was a certain period of time when I honestly didn't. And I was buying it to be impressive to people that did not even care. Also, even if they do care, still don't impress them. Like, there's so many other things. Be impressive with everything but money. Be impressive with the kind of person you are. Be impressive with how kind you are to people. Be impressive with how generous you are. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many other ways instead of just having things and being like, check out my latest, whatever it is that does not matter to you or the people around you.
That's a great piece of advice.
I hope so.
Adrienne, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I feel like this conversation was so vulnerable, and I personally took away so much. I know everyone at home is just so grateful for everything you've shared today.
I am grateful for all the things I learned from you, so it is mutual.
That's all we have for today's episode. Make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons and follow SoFi on Instagram and TikTok. See you next time.
That is the key. Baby, she's dramatic. She's ready. $40? $40? I'm like, woo, that's a lot of money.